I'm gonna show you 10 PS4 games that have been significantly enhanced on Sony's current gen console, giving you that true next-gen experience. Some games benefit so much from the upgrade, they might as well be native PlayStation 5 titles. Either load up the game or download a PS5 patch and you're good to go. With the exception of just one title on this list, which I will get to in a little bit later, all upgrades work with digital and disc versions of the game. Number 10. Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. I mean, do I need to say anything? It's native 1080p with a capped 30 FPS on PlayStation 4 versus 1800p checkerboard running at a locked 60 FPS on PlayStation 5. If you're not familiar with playing games in 60 FPS, then I guess you really wouldn't know the difference. Sekiro on base PS4 plays just fine. The 30 FPS cap does have frame pacing issues, resulting in judder, but honestly, if you never heard of it, you probably wouldn't even notice. The loading isn't terrible, but it could be better, I think. And although I'm not a big fan of motion blur, the technique used in Sekiro does add a lot to the animation without being overly aggressive. Overall, in terms of image quality, the game still looks pretty good on PlayStation 4. Hop over to PS5 and you'll immediately notice the jump in pixel count and frame rate. The entire game just looked a whole lot smoother now. Edges are more refined and shadows now have a cleaner, sharper look. Loading is cut down by half, which is a godsend because you're gonna die a lot in this game. But of course, the biggest upgrade of all is performance. Playing Sekiro with a locked 60 FPS is quite the experience. A completely different experience, if you will. It doesn't necessarily make the game easier, but it does make it more enjoyable. I actually look forward to the boss encounters now, and being surrounded by multiple enemies doesn't feel as daunting as it once did before. Going from stealth, exploration, and into combat feels so smooth, it's almost scary. A substantial upgrade and one that makes it feel like an entirely different game altogether. I don't think you've played Sekiro Shadows Die Twice until you've played it in 60 FPS. Can the PS4 Pro do that? Yeah, I said it. Fight me. Number 9. No Man's Sky. If there was ever a reason to play PS4 games on PlayStation 5, then this would have to be it. Base PS4 sees a pixel count of 1080p native with an option to run the game at a target 30 FPS or with an unlocked frame rate. Choosing the latter is quite interesting as you'll see how far you can push the system. I found that PlayStation 4 was able to keep a steady 60 FPS but only in space stations. Unfortunately, most of your time will be spent out on the planet terrain exploring, which is where performance starts to dip. Frame rate usually tend to hover between 30 and 50 FPS with the frame cap disabled. Not really the way you'd want to play this game, so ideally you'd want to go with the 30 FPS cap. Given the scale and scope of the game, I'd have to give base PS4 some credit. With the frame cap in place, the game still manages to pump out a 1080p image at a steady 30 FPS. I would also like to mention, boosting your aircraft can cause the frame rate to dip below 20 FPS, but slow down and the game resumes back to 30 FPS. Take this over to PlayStation 5 and you'll experience a whole other game. With patch version 3.1, PlayStation 5 gets a free next-gen upgrade. This isn't just a PS4 game getting a simple performance boost. You're getting a native PS5 upgrade. You can now enjoy No Man's Sky with new next-gen features and upgrades. Haptic controller support has been added, allowing for a more immersive experience as you explore new alien worlds. Enhanced visuals. Not only will you be getting 4K support at 60 FPS, but expect more vibrant colors and detail on planet surfaces. In addition, you get improved shadows, texture quality, lighting, and volumetric effects. You can also expect to see a greater draw distance as well as thousands more objects on screen at once. I'm guessing there'll be more rocks and trees in the distance. Warp speed load times have also been improved. You can now warp from solar system to solar system up to 10 times faster than on previous gen consoles. A new 32-player online multiplayer has been added, as well as advanced 3D audio. Base building has also been improved, allowing for greater and more complex builds. And lastly, crossplay. No matter what console you're on, you'll always have players to explore alongside with. Now, I think we can all agree this is one upgrade that goes above and beyond. If you've been holding off on this game, then now's the time to finally pick it up. Number 8. God of War. Yeah, I know it's on PC. Jeez. I bet you couldn't wait to tell me that. Base PS4 gets a native 1080p image running at 30 FPS, while PlayStation 5 gets ultra high resolution textures running at a locked 60 FPS. Thanks to patch version 1.35, PlayStation 5 owners can now experience God of War in glorious 4K checkerboard quality. And because you've got the latest patch installed, your game saves from PlayStation 4 now carry over as well. So no need to start from the very beginning. You know what? As a matter of fact, start a new game plus and play from the very beginning everything just so you can appreciate the new update. Thanks to the new powerful hardware, not only will you be getting better performance, you'll be getting a more quieter experience. You can also expect faster load times and less input lag as well. Overall, as a result of the locked 60 FPS, the controls feel faster, smoother, and more responsive. Combine that with the 4K visuals, God of War on PlayStation 5 is a whole other experience. You could be fooled into thinking this was a native PS5 release. I mean, the game really looks that good. A testament to how far Sony Santa Monica Studios really pushed the PS4 hardware. The only thing I can say is missing from this game now is an option to play in ultra widescreen. Yes, I know the PC has that option. Jeez. And because God of War just got released on PC, there's pretty much no reason left not to play this game. Buy it, borrow it, pirate it. Oh wait, scratch that. Do whatever you gotta do and play this game. Number 7. The Last Guardian. I really wish this game had a toggle switch to enable a smoother frame rate, because without it, you would never know it ran at a locked 60 FPS. There's a minor drop somewhere in the middle of the game. I can't remember where, but for argument's sake, let's just say it's a locked 60. Oh great, where's that annoying prick who has to analyze everything I say? Getting the PlayStation 5 to run this game at a locked 60 is a little tricky. You're gonna need to play using the actual disc, meaning this trick will not work with a digital copy of the game. Sorry, PlayStation Plus owners. Disconnect your PS5 from the internet, and as soon as you insert the disc, make sure to disable any updates the game is trying to install. You basically have to play this game straight from the disc without any updates. Doing so will allow you to play The Last Guardian at a locked 60 FPS. There are some caveats, however. Without the latest 1.03 patch, you are losing some key updates. Improved camera controls, as in less dead zone on the right analog stick, various bug fixes within the game, and the ability to play in HDR. In exchange, you are getting a native 3360 by 1890p with a locked 60 FPS straight from the disc. A huge upgrade from base PS4 with its native 1080p, locked 30 FPS, which in all honesty ran mostly between 25 and 30 FPS, so it's not even perfect. If you want to really enjoy The Last Guardian, then play it on the PS5. I mean, it's a bummer that you have to deal with the extra dead zone on the right analog stick, but I think the smoother frame rate really compensates for that. Also, no HDR sucks as well, but once you experience that locked 60, you won't even care. Well worth the trade-off in my opinion. Trico! Number 6. Killzone Shadowfall. Man, I still get the chills whenever I watch this cutscene. It's so badass. I mean, who needs Call of Duty when you've got Killzone? Like, seriously. Microsoft, you can have it. Now, this one is fairly simple. Pixel count is 1080p across both systems, but Sony's current gen console is where you'll see the difference. There's an option to play the game with an unlocked frame rate, which can fluctuate from 30 to 50 FPS. Realistically, it's closer to the mid-30s, and rarely does it ever reach 50. You're better off playing this with the locked 30 FPS option. At least then, you won't get that weird judder effect. However, if you want the best gameplay experience, then I suggest playing Killzone Shadowfall on the PS5. This is one PS4 launch title that has benefited greatly from next gen. The game looks absolutely amazing on PlayStation 5. Although pixel count still remains at 1080p, which still looks pretty damn good, the game is now locked at 60 FPS. I know I say this a lot, but Shadowfall really does feel like a brand new game. Because of the increased performance, you no longer have that weighty feel associated with previous Killzone games. You know how when you're running around, you feel like you're carrying a crap ton of stuff on you? Yeah, it doesn't feel like that anymore. Everything is smoother and a lot snappier, I guess you could say. Loading has also been improved. What appeared to take centuries to load a chapter now takes a few seconds. Hopefully, with a PS5 patch that upscales the game to 4K, we can finally have the definitive version of Killzone Shadowfall. Number 5. Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. Similar to No Man's Skies, Crash 4 has also received a next-gen upgrade. Gamers on base PS4 can expect a target 1080p with dynamic resolution scaling. As a result, pixel count can dip below 1080p, resulting in a slightly soft image. It's nothing major, and for the most part, the game still looks amazing on last-gen hardware. Unfortunately, performance has taken a hit. With an unlocked frame rate, the game can run anywhere between 30 and 60 FPS. Not the best way to play this in my opinion, as you experience a lot of judder with the inconsistent frame rate. On PlayStation 5, pixel count comes in just shy of 4K at 2088p, running at a locked 60 FPS. Along with the increased resolution and performance boost, Crash Bandicoot 4 on PS5 also get exclusive next-gen features. Visuals receive a bump in quality with improved detail, reduced loading thanks in part to the SSD, and 3D audio capabilities when using headphones. Did I miss anything? Oh yeah, adaptive triggers have also been added when using certain gadgets. As a huge Crash Bandicoot fan, I was overwhelmed with complete joy as I was playing this game. It just goes to show how much the developers truly understand the franchise and what makes it great. The care and attention put into this title makes it look almost like a pre-rendered cartoon at certain points. Everything from the way Crash runs to his mannerisms have been faithfully brought over from the PS1 games. If you played the previous game, then Crash Bandicoot 4 feels like a natural progression, retaining a lot of the familiar gameplay elements you've come to know and love, but with a more modern take. Levels are cleverly designed and the boss battles never disappoint. In fact, they're probably the highlight of the game, to be honest. Big, colorful, and always over the top. This game is so amazing, like I don't know if Naughty Dog could have done a better job themselves. Number 4. The Evil Within 2. PlayStation 4 gets a native 1080p output with a 30 FPS cap. Whereas the first game had trouble hitting 20 FPS, Evil Within 2 gets a stable 30 FPS on base PS4. Performance was relatively smooth with minor drops occurring mostly during cutscenes. Not perfect, but a huge improvement over the original. Take this over to PlayStation 5 and you get a slight jump in pixel count with 1296p. Not a big upgrade, but image quality does look a bit sharper as a result. The most important change, however, does come with performance. The game now runs at a locked 60 FPS. Combine that with the use of a higher quality camera and the excellent per object motion blur, the Evil Within 2 becomes a whole other experience on PlayStation 5. Not to mention, the loading has also been improved. As a whole, the game is a lot bigger this time around, with larger, more complex environments for you to run through. It doesn't feel as claustrophobic as it did in the original, mainly because the game doesn't make you play with those awful black bars. Yeah, remember that crap? Ugh. Those are just awful. For those who don't remember, the original game was played in a letterbox mode with black bars at the top and the bottom of the screen. There was a patch later on down the road that allowed you to turn it off, but I think by then I had already finished the game. I'm glad the sequel gets rid of that feature right from the start. It was supposed to make things look more cinematic. Really? I don't understand how seeing less of the screen makes things more cinematic. Number 3. Horizon Zero Dawn. Alright, so if you've been following this channel, you know I covered this game in a previous video, but since Horizon Forbidden West is releasing at the end of this month, I figured it'd be a good opportunity to give it one more mention. Pixel count on PlayStation 4 comes in at a native 1080p running at 30 FPS with just a few single digit drops in some areas. For the most part, you can expect a solid 30 FPS on base PS4. On PlayStation 5, you get a full 2160p through checkerboard rendering. The 30 FPS cap is now gone, replaced with a locked 60 FPS. Performance drops the game originally had on Sony's last-gen console has now been fixed, which has dramatically improved the overall experience. Horizon Zero Dawn feels like an entirely different game on PlayStation 5. That performance boost really does wonders, let me tell you. Play this one on a 4K television set and you'll see some of the best visuals ever in a video game. From the dynamic weather system to the lush outdoor environments, there isn't one area in this game that doesn't impress. Graphics still remain unchanged, however, visual artifacts associated with checkerboard rendering are now less noticeable thanks to the increased frame rate. Other improvements include less texture pop-in as well as reduced load times. Loading a campaign on base PS4 can take upwards of 1 minute or more, while PS5 takes about 31 seconds. Also worth noting is that Zero Dawn has one of the best implementation of HDR I've ever seen. Number 2. MediEvil. It's a shame this remake never got the attention it deserved because it's actually really well done. The only explanation I can think of is that it might not have the brand appeal as, say, maybe Crash Bandicoot or Spiral. I played the PS1 version of MediEvil rather late in the PlayStation's life cycle, so by then the graphics really didn't hold up too well. I enjoyed the game overall, but the outdated visuals really made it stand out, and not in a good way. The PS4 remake helps alleviate this issue. The visuals have completely been remade and they look absolutely gorgeous. Imagine Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy and you'll get an idea of how big a jump you're getting in this remake. The layout and structure of the levels still remain faithful to the original game, but everything else has been given that beautiful next-gen look. The new added cutscenes also help illustrate the story a lot better, giving you more insight into the world of MediEvil. The performance also does one better, especially if you're on the PS5. It's actually uncapped on last-gen consoles with frequent frame drops that made the game almost unplayable, but on the PlayStation 5, you get a rock-solid 60 FPS. Unfortunately, pixel count is still only 1080p, even on PS5, but I thought the increase in performance was well worth a spot on this list. The uncapped frame rate on PS4 made me kinda dizzy, to be honest. Did anyone feel that way? It might not have that pop culture appeal like Sony's previously owned franchises, but it's definitely worth a look if you're a fan of the original. Number 1. Crysis 2 Remastered. On base PS4, we're getting a fixed 1080p with a 30 FPS cap. Performance is pretty good. The game kept to 30 FPS most of the time, and thanks to the excellent use of motion blur, any minor drops that occur are almost unnoticeable. The one time you will notice the frame drop is when coming across a new checkpoint. You'll experience a slight stutter when this occurs. It's not that big of a deal in my opinion. Move over to current gen, which happens to use dynamic resolution scaling. PlayStation 5 ranges from a full 2160p all the way down to 1080p. It's unfortunate the resolution can drop so low, but luckily the game stays slightly above 1440p most of the time. For the most part, Crysis 2 Remastered is a relatively sharp looking title on PlayStation 5. And then there's performance. Frame rate comes in at a locked 60 FPS. Finally, we get to play Crysis 2 the way it was intended, and it only took 10 years for the technology to catch up. I remember playing this on the PlayStation 3 when it was first released, and boy did it run like dog shit. Pardon my French, but I just want to let you know how I feel about that game. Frame rate at times felt almost like it dropped into the single digits. I'm not exaggerating. We're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 25 FPS. 25 if you're lucky. I think the scene where they first introduced the aliens is where I gave up. It was basically unplayable at that point. Even if you can't get your hands on a PS5, playing the Crysis 2 Remastered on PS4 is infinitely better than it was on PS3. But if you want the absolute best possible way to experience this game, the way it was originally meant, then please do play it on the PlayStation 5. You won't regret it. Now, if you want to see some exclusive games that make the PS5 worth owning, then check out the video on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.